Champions League special. We are recording on Wednesday night, immediately after the final match day of the Champions League phase, group stage, whatever you call it these days, has just finished. I've got Raj with me. How you doing, mate?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Sorry for the technical issues that I had, but at least I turned up. I know where Chooks is.
I know he's gone AWOL, hasn't he? But it's all good. It's all good. Maybe he will join at some point. And yeah, apologies that we're a bit late. Obviously, the match is finished a bit late, and then we had some technical problems. But we are here. We are here to talk about it all. So, lots to talk about. Well, for context, I didn't actually watch the game tonight. I didn't watch the Arsenal game tonight, which I don't know. Well, I'm relying on you, Raj, today to talk me through what happened and your thoughts on the game and how we played.
I love that we're doing an on the whistle podcast. First thing. Yes, I didn't actually watch the game.
Well, I mean, I kept tabs on it, but I didn't watch the full 90 minutes. But I've seen the goals, and I've seen, apart from the last Kairat goal, I didn't realize that went in. Yeah, I was watching the goal show because I just thought that we've done our job. We are obviously comfortably straight into the round of 16, and I thought, why not just enjoy kind of like the drama of everyone playing at the same time and watching that league, all the positions in the league moving up and down, and seeing what the other English teams do, and hoping some of the big boys drop down, which actually happened, which was nice. Unfortunately, City did get through and qualified automatically because I guess other teams didn't really do their job. A bit frustrating, but it's all good. But yeah, I mean, look, let's start with our game. We obviously, and as expected, Arteta put in a really changed lineup. Pretty much, I think he pretty much rotated. Was it 11? I think it was 11 changes from the weekend. And I think most interestingly for me, and really good to get your take on your take on the lineup and just anything that you kind of noticed. But two players that have come back after, well, one after very long-term injury in Kai Havertz starting again. I thought he might start, to be fair, but I thought he would start as our striker. And interestingly, he played, I guess, a midfield role or attacking midfield role behind Gyokeres. And obviously, Ricardo Calafiori starting as well as a centre-back. I think otherwise fairly kind of expected team. Would you say, Raj?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Havertz point's a good one. That was definitely a surprise. I didn't think he was ready in his sort of injury comeback to start a game. And that was cool because it meant that we could give Zubimendi a rest, right? Like as a sort of knock-on effect. And because before, when I did all the possible lineups in my head, I thought, I'm probably still going to have to get Zubimendi to play. And the guy really needed a rest. So yeah, man, like the rest of it was cool. Like there was a part of me that would have liked someone like Salmon, like one of the kids, to get a start. But we've got a big squad, and actually people do need to stay sharp. For me, it felt like one of those, when you like sometimes like when you have gaps in fixtures and maybe you're out of a cup competition or something, and then you have a free weekend and everyone else plays. Like sometimes those teams schedule like a friendly behind closed doors or something just to keep things going. So I kind of had that feel to me a little bit, and it certainly had that feel to me after the first few minutes, right? It was just, there was that ball over the top, I think, in the first minute, that if Havertz was even 50% sharp, he probably gets it. But you could almost tell it happened way too soon in the game for him. He almost just sort of thought, actually, I might pull something if I try and go for this. And that was the first minute. And then I think in the second minute, Gyokeres scored the goal from a really similar method. It's kind of like a ball, I say it's a similar method, but, it was them playing a high line and us exploiting that high line. And that was all in like a couple of minutes. And Gyokeres scores, a good finish. And then, and then obviously they get their penalty and they score that. And this is all in the first five. So crazy first 5 minutes, but still it just had that informality to it. It just had this kind of both teams playing with a lot of freedom, nothing to lose. So it was fun, it was fun. And I think both teams probably come away from that game and think we got what we wanted out of this game. Kairat probably had no aspirations of getting anything from the game, but they got to score 2 goals at the Emirates. They got to play at the Emirates and got to score 2 goals at the Emirates. And we got to give loads of players a run out and get some rhythm going. So yeah, mate. Overall, pretty pleased. It was a nice little distraction from what happened on Sunday. But it's all about Leeds coming up. But and I guess we'll get into that. But no, mate, like really pleased. And yeah, as you said, Havertz getting some minutes, excellent.
Yeah, and well, we've got a question here. I was going to ask just specifically about Havertz because he only played the first half, right? And I thought let's just go straight into a question from Tessie Thomas. Thanks for the question. So, Raj, how did you like the Eze and Havertz combo in midfield? Was it an experiment considering the level of opposition, or something more to it? Yeah, that's actually a really interesting question, to be fair. Like I was saying, only 45 minutes, I guess, to see that kind of combo if there was one. But did you feel there was any sort of link up between the two? Anything sort of noticeable that maybe, some positive kind of signs and maybe something for Arteta to think about for Saturday, obviously, and then going ahead or looking ahead from Saturday onwards?
It is a good question, and one that before the game when we saw the lineup, my instant reaction was I thought that we were playing Eze and Havertz in as 2 10s essentially. So you go back to maybe a world where they both shine in, because Eze, his best position historically has been as a left 10, and Havertz similarly at Leverkusen, that's where he shone the most. So could this be an opportunity for them to just both play in positions they're familiar with, where you perhaps need a little less security in the center of midfield because we're playing a team like Kairat at home? And I think the way that it actually transpired was it was more that Eze was playing a deeper role. So it was more that Eze was sort of playing an 8 and Havertz was playing a 10. So that rotation didn't happen as much as I thought it would. But I quite liked it. And I think this is the problem, Tessie, is like, I liked it, but it was Kairat at home. So yeah, part of me sort of thinks that you could have played Calafiori as a number 10, and I probably would have liked it, because this is the other thing with Kairat, right? This is I'm not trying to just slate them unnecessarily. Obviously, they are bottom of the Champions League table, but their season's ended. Their season ended in like November or something like this. So this is they're just kind of playing for Champions League games. So they are. It's really weird if you looked at their squad. They basically brought, I think, six people on the bench or something like that, with another sort of 8 players in their squad that were ineligible. So I don't really know what's up, but it's a bit odd. Anyway, look, that's a very tangential point to your question, but I think it was hard to read too much into. But at the end of the day, they both looked like they enjoyed themselves. Havertz and Eze, they both got a lot of the ball. I did like how much Eze was on the ball, by the way, because I think that he is a low touch player, and I'm not saying that he'll have to change his style, but it was just nice seeing him actually try and dictate a game. I thought he was always trying to be progressive. I thought that there was an interesting change when Odegaard came on, how the dynamic shifted slightly, but no, overall, I thought that, there was something there. And honestly, to be honest, even though it was just Kairat, I do think it's something that we might see going forward. I genuinely do. Especially we've seen the appetite for Arteta to try things without Odegaard, as we've seen in recent games. So yeah, no, like I was encouraged.
Awesome. That is really positive to hear. Charles has messaged as well. He actually sent in a number of questions before we even started recording. So thank you, Charles, for that. And he's just messaged again to say if we've seen those questions. They were definitely, I've definitely seen them. I just wanted to come to them and address them, I guess, in the right kind of, at the right moments, really, as we're talking about the performance and the different players. But yeah, I mean, the other player I mentioned at the start, just purely because he's been out for a little while, and I guess we've really missed him, as the sort of performances have been a little bit of a struggle in the last few games, is Calafiori. So he obviously only played the first half as well. So it sounds like, or it looks like, both him and Havertz planned substitutions at half time. You didn't see anything like towards the end of the first half that indicated that they picked something up or there was a problem. It just looked like they were planned subs.
Yeah, I mean, Havertz 100%. He played well. He looked good. Like, the system looked good with him in it. Very clearly, that's a halftime substitution that was planned. Calafiori maybe not. Obviously, he's come back from injury, but he was also on a yellow. So potentially he may have thought, well, do I want to risk it? Just if you imagine, like, the game was very comfortable, it would have been nice to bring lots of subs on like he did later on in the game, and he probably thought, if I go down to 10 men, that's just going to be really annoying. So maybe a little bit of that, but maybe a bit of fitness. But yeah, no, overall, I don't think anything massively controversial.
Okay, good. And obviously, look, we started the game, as you mentioned before, pretty strong, got in behind in the first couple of minutes, and then we scored within the first couple of minutes. Victor Gyokeres. Look, I mean, I guess we could go through every single incident, every single goal, but there's lots of things to talk about, including the Leeds game coming up, and I guess we might want to touch on sort of the other results and impact on us in the next rounds, or the next couple of rounds of the Champions League. But just on Gyokeres, because obviously lots and lots of focus on him in the last few weeks, or I guess, to be fair, probably the entire season so far, given he was a kind of high profile summer striker signing. And I guess when you see him score within the first couple of minutes, when I saw that goal go in, and it was a really kind of encouraging goal. He's through on goal. Couple of, maybe, in terms of from what I could see, it looked a little bit clumsy in terms of his sort of control of the ball, but it breaks for him and then he finishes pretty well. I've only seen the replay a couple of times, to be fair, so I'd probably need to see it again. But that was one thing that I noticed, that, he was confident in front of goal to finish, whereas I think previously or earlier on in the season, we've seen him go through on goal and miss chances like that. So that's encouraging. And I guess maybe he's did gain a bit of confidence from that really good goal he scored against Inter at the San Siro last week. The other thing was, and again, bringing him back into the conversation, is Kai Havertz. An assist from Kai Havertz, who just 45 minutes, and like you said, managing expectations, it's only Kairat, but a very, very he just looked very, very sharp from what I saw. But anything that you noticed on Gyokeres specifically, given that we still don't really know when it comes to the big games, when it comes to Leeds this weekend, and the upcoming games that we've got, when you think of Spurs, basically every single Premier League game, who is going to be, who's actually going to start in that striker position?
Yeah.
Did you see anything today that made you feel like maybe he's turned a bit of a corner, maybe his confidence is back, maybe he's the guy that we could potentially rely on in, as I say, some of these bigger games going forward?
I did, Mize, to be honest, because I think that after the United game, I think it reminded me, and it perhaps reminded a lot of people, that our limitations are obvious with Jesus playing up front, regardless of whether he's playing well or not. There's just things that he can't do, and he won't give us that. And I think it was a reminder that Gyokeres, even when he is looking really clumsy and he clearly is struggling in front of goal, he gives you a lot. And sometimes you can't even really work out what those things are on face value, but clearly when you step back and analyze the game afterwards, and you kind of see how the defensive lines of our opposition vary when he's on the pitch and when he's not. It made me feel that, what, even if he's not in a great place, I think that until Kai Havertz is fit and ready, I think clearly Gyokeres has to start for us, to be honest. But today, Miles, I think what I was encouraged about is, it was kind of like I mentioned in our group chat. It reminded when Phil Scolari was manager of Brazil, and in tournaments before the tournament, he would regularly play really, really, really bad clubs. So, like, for example, I don't know if you remember this, but I want to say the World Cup was somewhere in Europe. I can't remember which one it was, but he basically played. I think so, perhaps, but I think he was they were in England for a while in the preparation to the World Cup. And they played someone like AFC Wimbledon. It was someone really, like, genuinely, it was someone really random. And they won like 12-1 or something. And, so people were like, oh, that's really surprising. And it turned out that's something that he does generally. And he's basically just like, I think it's really good to just get players in, like, having fun and playing with confidence and just like getting their touch, etc. And, not they don't have to be physically tested as much, but it's just kind of a flow state. And that kind of is what I felt about Gyokeres today a little bit, because the way he took his goal was like he was desperate to, like, score, and it was it was a good finish. But immediately after that as well, I got the impression that he was very much like, oh, I just need to score loads. I just need to. I really need to. I really, really want to score. So he didn't look like he was phoning it in at all and thinking, oh, this is just Kairat. I'm, whatever, it's cold and I can't be asked. No. The guy looked like he really wanted to score, and I actually thought he was fairly unlucky in the first half, because there's that one where it was a great move and it was sort of flashed across goal and he jumps in and it kind of, he ends up making contact and the ball goes flying over. But actually, in hindsight, when you look over that again, you sort of think it's the striker's job in that situation to preempt the cross and just go for it, because he's blindsided because there's a defender blocking the trajectory of the ball. So I would have been more concerned if he didn't make it. But the fact is he made it. And I guess there, all you're doing is trying to make contact and hoping it goes in. So he did that. And then similarly for the goal that was given to Martinelli, it was a little bit scuffed on Gyokeres' part because he kind of got a touch onto it. But I think if you slow it down, it's probably going in. So if Martinelli doesn't touch it, it probably goes in. So I guess what I'm trying to say there in a kind of, in a bit of a copium way, he could have very easily had a hat-trick, very, very easily had a hat-trick very quickly. And I think that's a lot of confidence. On the downside, like, he just looks so clunky. Like, and I think I said in our chat, he looks hungover. And I think I sort of came to the conclusion that I think that even when he ends up playing really well, let's imagine he gets into great form for us, I think he's always going to look like that. Like, I think he's just always going to look like he has a massive turning circle, and everything is just like a little bit more effort.
What's really interesting about that? Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's it. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, what's really interesting about that is, obviously, when we were linked with him, and we obviously realized then, that we were going to sign him, and you start watching the compilations. I guess we saw a fair bit of him last season because he did really well in the Champions League. He scored those goals against Man City. He didn't really look like that. And okay, there's probably additional context to that, where it's the Portuguese league and the opposition defenses aren't as strong as the Premier League and all of that. But ultimately, in terms of his style, he reminded me, and I don't want to make the comparison for it to come back, because I'm not comparing them as players, but he reminded me a little bit of when you see Haaland go through on goal. Haaland did the same thing today, where he was through on goal. It was a great through ball from Doku, and it's one touch and he dinks it over the keeper. It's a fantastic finish, like composure, shows strength to kind of hold off the defender, everything you'd want from your kind of number 9. And every time we saw Gyokeres last season, or a lot of the times we saw him, especially in highlights when it came to him scoring goals, it was like him picking up the ball, in space and pretty much, moving with the ball, really kind of like just like galloping, basically. You kind of associate that word with Haaland, right? When he picks up the ball, he gets into his full stride. And and I don't know, it's just weird that now maybe it's just because we're watching him more often and we're analyzing every single thing he does. I don't know. But I just find that very, very interesting.
Well, to be honest, I think both things can still be true, because, and this is what I mean when I think even if we were to get the best version of Gyokeres, like, it's not necessarily that I think that, maybe hungover is like a bit of a bad like analogy. I agree. Like, I remember watching highlights of him at Sporting, and you're totally right. Like, he looked like powerful, and how he runs and everything, but he doesn't look agile, right? He doesn't look nimble. And I think the thing is with him, in the way that he runs, the way he tries to do things, he tries to do them with power. Even when he's turning, he's sort of trying to do it with power. When he's running, imagine even the first goal today, as you sort of mentioned, there was a little bit of messiness to it. But I think that's what you get with him. It's just he just tries to move with power. And I think the times where it looks bad is when you see times where he's trying to control something in the box, and he ends up looking like he's taking an age to turn, and then he's getting the ball like nicked off him, which happened a couple of times today. And I think you probably accept that if he is kind of in good form and he's putting stuff away, and he's ultimately kind of just in a better place, because I think it's very hard to argue that he's not in a great place when it comes to kind of his actual output in front of goal. I find it impossible to believe that this is just a case where he's come to a harder league and actually he's not that good. I'm not sure that I believe that. I think that there's just some confidence, whatever it is, like, it's just not quite there. He's not being instinctive. And maybe we saw a little bit more of that today. And, whether it's Kairat or not, maybe that will help. And I guess we'll see, man. And again, I'll be very, very surprised if he doesn't start against Leeds this weekend.
Yeah, and look, I think if we're looking at the positives, he scored against Inter, he scored tonight, he got an assist tonight as well. Maybe a little bit of a fortunate one, but he's still, and I guess if you're looking at stats and things like that, and from his confidence, hopefully that helps him basically. And yeah, it will be interesting to see who he starts on Saturday. I know we're going to come on to Leeds because he's now potentially got 3, arguably 4 options when you consider Marino as well. But in terms of sort of anything else that notable happened in the game, anything notable that happened in the game, sorry. So I've seen that a couple of the youngsters came on. So one was Brando Bailey Joseph. I'll be completely honest, I've never heard of this player before. Maybe you have, Raj. I know you're pretty good with. Oh, you haven't? Okay, fine.
No,
could have lied and said you had, to be fair, but okay. Came on for Martinelli. It's quite funny because I've got FOTMob up, which is like the stats and results and everything kind of all in one. And when you click on his name, it says position and it's just blank. So obviously, like even they don't know. So I had to Google him. So apparently he's sort of an attacking wide player or attacking midfielder or forward. I'm not exactly sure, but it seems like an attacking player. And then I think it's Ife Ibrahim or Ife. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Apologies. I think he's the guy that signed a contract this week, a pro contract this week. Maybe not. Maybe I'm making that up. But he only came on for a couple of minutes. But I mean, look, not to put you on the spot, because I appreciate we don't really know much about these players. Did you notice anything about either of them? What you saw?
No, I mean the second one, Ibrahim, I think his name was. Yeah. He only came on, I think, fairly late. So I think it was only like a few minutes towards the end. And I think the first substitute, he came on when Jesus came on. I mean, the first thing I noticed with him was that he looked like he was full of energy. I think he was trying to chase down a few things like with real like vigor. So it was like, very excited clearly. But I don't think he really had the opportunity to get on the ball and do that much. I think at that stage of the game, it was quite interesting. I don't know how much of that you saw, but we were very Martinelli and Madueke were dominating kind of possession of the ball a lot. It felt like we were just trying to get it to them and they were just trying to do something and quite often not actually making the right decision. So anyway, the point is he didn't really get to do much. And I think, look, it's really nice. It's really lovely that these guys get to make their debuts. I mean, it means so much to them, their families. It's amazing. Like it really is amazing. I don't know. Maybe I'm undercooking it, but like, I think the fact that we haven't really heard much about them, and given where Arsenal are in our evolution, a team that's like playing to try and win the Champions League, the Premier League, and all that kind of stuff, I'd be very surprised if these are players that will actually make it at Arsenal, because I feel like if they were, we would have heard about them by now. We would have heard more. The level to break through in this team is ridiculous right now, and who knows, maybe in a few years we're not competing for titles anymore and actually they're still around, and who knows. But it's nice for them anyway to get the debuts. And the guy, because I'm not sure what happened. There's that guy Harriman Anus, and I think he'd been on the bench for us a few times and has come on a couple of times. I think he even started in one game. I'm not sure what happened to him. Maybe he was injured or something. I'm not sure. Because otherwise I thought that clearly he would get on the pitch. But no, and otherwise other things of note, I don't think there really were any wise. I liked the fact that Odegaard managed to start in midfield.
Yeah,
happy for him. Like,
I was just going to say, just on Odegaard, it's very good segue into him because Charles dropped in a question about Odegaard, said he played very well, except it's against poor quality opposition, but surely he's been underused this season so far, which is interesting because he does feel like a bit of you just forget, really, don't you? Because we've got this stacked squad and there are a number of players that just don't make it into that match day squad when everyone's fit, and we're basically at that point now. Odegaard, he hasn't really featured, but it's Charles feels like he played pretty well today, which you'd kind of expect. I know he's coming in a little bit cold, but again, he played the full game, and he's an established Premier League player, right? Like he's not someone that we're bringing in from whatever, so out from a European league. He's got that experience, plenty of it, and I saw one highlight. I can't remember if it was from a goal or from a chance, but edge of the box, he does like a little flick, and it lands in the path of one of our attackers again. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Havertz, and then is it for Havertz's goal? Havertz. Possibly?
I'm not sure I remember the one that you were talking. I mean, he did it. He did the ball over the top that went to Gabriel Jesus, which Jesus scored, but then it was given offside. I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
No, it was in the first half. It was
Oh,
literally it was
okay,
on the
no.
edge of the box, and he basically just flicks it, kind of, just flicks it, and it puts someone in. But yeah, like I said, I can't really remember. But yeah, okay.
But no, he did play. He played well, and you know what? Like, I think a credit to Norgard, and I think Arteta has referenced his professionalism many times. Like, I don't think that's just lip service. I think that's true. I think he's barely got the chance to be on the pitch. And yeah, sure, he's probably come to Arsenal and he's known that there's a high chance he doesn't play that many minutes. But he probably thought he'd get more than he actually has. And you know, he's at a point in his career where like he's probably not going to get that many more opportunities. But credit to the guy, because it feels like he doesn't make any noise. Maybe, I didn't expect him to make any noise about it anyway, but he didn't make any noise. And when he comes on, he always does a job. And usually it's in positions that he's not familiar with or, hasn't built a career around. But credit to him for today. He starts in centre mid and looks fresh and looks sharp. I mean, he's going to look fresh, but maybe sharp. He looked sharp and he did a great job. And he did it for the 90 minutes. He didn't stop. He just kept going and he controlled the game really, really well. So credit to him, man. It must be really good for the dressing room. And, you do still, even if they only play a few minutes here or there, you do need some people like that in your squad, right? Because, hey, man, if it's not for him, then it's Zubamendi who's playing again. So
exactly. A player who's played pretty much every game, every minute. And yeah, I've got a rest today, but exactly, yeah, player that we may need to call upon at some point in the season. So I guess again, looking at the positives, you've got a guy like that waiting in the wings to come in when we need him. It could prove really handy over the next few months. There's loads of questions here from Charles. I'm trying to do this in sort of the right order so that we kind of cover things in a logical order. But we mentioned Eze earlier and that kind of potential link up with Havertz. And this is a really interesting question because this is feels like the Odegaard, if we call it a problem, I think it's a problem. The question from Charles, apologies, let me put it back up. For the majority of the run-in, what will you do to solve the old Odegaard Eze conundrum, assuming Rice and Zubi are omnipresent? I mean, the Odegaard, as I say, problem, it's really, really interesting because, and we've been talking about this loads, haven't we, this week, especially after the United game, kind of fallout of the United game. I think one of the big talking points was, lack of creativity that we've seen, or we've not seen any creativity in the last few games, really. And I guess Odegaard being, I would consider, now obviously he's the captain, but also just one of the sort of established forwards who's been in this side and kind of been as part of the kind of Arteta like the growth that we've had under Arteta for the last few years, and we've sort of seen the heights that he's hit in the past, 2022 23, and then the season after that, 23 24. He was absolutely fantastic. He was being heralded as sort of the next best playmaker, number 10 in the league after Kevin De Bruyne. And everyone sort of thought, when De Bruyne leaves City, which has obviously now happened, Odegaard would be that guy. And it just hasn't worked out that way. And injuries obviously play a part. My concern with Odegaard is, and I've shared this with you guys in the group chat, right? But my concern with Odegaard is, there are a number of concerns, to be honest. And the thing is trying to nail down exactly what the problem is, because I don't know if it's a form issue, because if it's a form issue, it's been going on for quite a while, i.e. probably 18 months. He's not really been at that same level. I don't know if it's sort of a system problem, because Zubamendi is obviously our 6. Rice likes to drop in deep as well when we build out from the back. Looks like Odegaard's also dropping in pretty deep and is therefore not in the kind of the pockets that you'd want him to be in, where he's going to cause the most damage. I don't know if he's just devoid of any sort of confidence, because it feels like a lot of the options that he chooses are very, very safe options now. Like, he does still try the odd through ball or, whatever, like to be creative. But at the same time, I feel like sometimes you see him pick up the ball in the middle of the park, and where you want your, like, again, I go back to the fact that he's a senior player, and you want those sorts of players to have the confidence to look up, turn, see some space, move into that space, or play a 1-2 with someone. Do you know what I mean? Like, just be very kind of like, direct's not really the word, but like kind of incisive and attack and play with intent, as opposed to playing quite passively. At the moment, it feels like he's playing quite passively, and I don't know if that is again, what the reason for that is. Is it a system thing? Is it because Arteta, is so obsessed with control? And it seems to be costing us. And obviously, it's not a reflection. He didn't play today, obviously, but it's not a reflection or anything from today's game. It's just more of a general thing, or general kind of feeling that I've had about Odegaard. And I think a lot of fans have had that. And it looks like there's a few Arsenal fans just starting to turn on him a bit, and they really want, say, Eze to come in, or they want Marino to just play as a midfielder. They basically just want Odegaard drops. And I think he suffers a little bit because he's the captain, and so therefore there's a higher expectation on him. But yeah, Raj, like, what, Odegaard, Eze, Marino, there's options there. Wanyeri was an option. We've obviously chosen to loan him out. Again, to address this creativity problem, and I'm not just putting it on Odegaard, but to kind of fix that part of the pitch or that part of the midfield, what do you think Arteta, like, do you see the same problems that I'm seeing, and what do you think Arteta should potentially be doing to try and address it?
I think you put it really well, and I think you said towards the end, you sort of pointed out creativity. You pointed it out as a creativity problem, and I think you're right, because when it comes down to it, the sort of fingers go there a little bit, because in a nutshell, the balance isn't right at the moment. Whatever it's supposed to be, it's not right. And you talked about system. Yeah, I mean, Arteta is responsible for the system. He's responsible for pretty much everything when you're a manager that's been there for that long. But the only thing is that Arteta hooking off his number 10 and his captain early in 2 Premier League matches in a row when we need to score goals, that tells me it's not a system thing. That tells me that it's a performance thing. So that tells me that that's Arteta saying, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. That, for me, I don't see a scenario where it's something else. I don't see a scenario where it's actually I'm playing the wrong system here and Odegaard can't play the system I need him to. It's not that. I think Odegaard's doing something that he didn't want him to do. And the only thing that I can think that is, when you look at these games, is that Odegaard is still spending so much time deep. He's spending a lot of time deeper in the pitch. He's spending a lot of time trying to collect the ball and get involved with play way further back in the pitch. And the creativity issue that we have is further up the pitch. And we need him there, man. Like, we need him in the spaces where he can hurt people. And if I'm being critical to Odegaard, you sort of think, okay, why would he be doing this? Then why would he be coming deep? Unconsciously, I wonder if it's a very, very honourable thing to come back deep. He may think that coming deep to try and get the ball means you're taking responsibility. It's like you're trying to, really lead in some ways. You're trying to dictate play, etc., etc. And it might be very, very hard for him to just kind of go, okay, actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to offer I'm not going to offer an outlet to the centre backs. I'm not going to, come down there and start dictating play. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay up here and wait for the ball to come to me. And that might mean I just see less of the ball, and I'm not going to feel like I'm doing anything wrong by seeing less of the ball. That's a kind of honourable thing to take on, because actually, if you think about it, there's probably more pressure on you if what you're doing is waiting and have an expectation to, when you receive that ball, do something very incisive. So if I'm being critical, maybe unconsciously he's going there, and maybe he's lacking a little bit of confidence. But I think something needs to be done, because I don't think this is a case where we can just be complacent because we're trying to win a league and we're trying to win the Champions League, etc. And maybe that is a world where we give Eze a shot. I think there's a couple of things we're maybe not considering, and one is, well, the left-hand side's not working tremendously well either anyway. Trossard's kind of dried up a little bit and was sort of making it look better than it was. Martinelli continues to do well in the Champions League, but, not otherwise. And at the start of the season, we were all thinking Eze was going to be playing on the left, and he kind of did at the start. So, I mean, could Arteta go back to that? Could Arteta actually be thinking, do I solve this another way? I probably want Odegaard on the pitch, and I'm going to try and get more out of Odegaard. But do I get Eze on the pitch as well and play him left? And maybe you can do that if Calafiori's fit. And maybe you can do that if you're willing to accept that MLS might make a few defensive faux pas every now and again, because they have the ability to take up positions much higher up on the pitch, and they can kind of fill gaps, which will allow people like Odegaard and Eze to take up positions that we might want them to be in. So I think I suppose one thing I'm saying is maybe he solves it by keeping Odegaard there, trying to encourage Odegaard to be in the areas that he needs to, and getting Eze on the pitch as well and trying something there. Maybe he could do that. But I think that if he plays Eze instead of Odegaard, I think you've got to be careful that you get the rest of the balance right. Because Eze playing fundamentally changes what Rice has to do and what Zubi has to do, because Eze is a low touch player. He's going to be higher up. I think the stats show Rice touches the ball twice as much when Eze starts versus Odegaard starts in that 10. So it's not, that's by design. Like, you're basically asking Rice to take more responsibility from a ball progression perspective. So you have to just make sure the balance is right. And that might mean rethinking who plays left back. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to think about. And maybe maybe I'm overcomplicating it. And maybe Arteta's just there going, no, man, you know what? My plan A is Odegaard at number 10. And this is just a bit of a confidence thing. This is just requires a little bit of a tweak here and there. I want him to be playing happy and fearless and whatever in it. And then when he does, this will be wonderful and joyous. And it will be like that season, before last, where, that second half of the season, Odegaard was purring and, we were scoring shed loads of goals. So, yeah, I don't know. It is, but mate, the balance is a huge thing that Arteta has to solve right now. So, that's where he's gonna. I think you said it in our group chat. This is how he's gonna earn his bucks, right? This is why he gets paid what he is, and why, we sit here doing podcasts for free.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like you say, it feels like something does need to change. But I mean, if you're looking at the Leeds game, I'm not just in terms of that position. I just can't see him dropping Odegaard. Like you say, I think he's his guy for a reason. He's chosen him as his captain for a reason as well. I can't see him just pulling him from the team when we're already not creating as much. And it's quite interesting because I put up a TikTok about it earlier today, and a lot of the responses from Arsenal fans were we played basically as soon as Odegaard came off, it killed everything, anything that we had, any sort of attacking kind of threat or impetus that we had, it killed it, which I didn't really see. I'm talking about the United game, obviously. I didn't really see, but fair enough. I think other fans have pointed that out. Okay, cool.
I mean, if I just add to that point, I think that it's very hard to pin that on anything, given Arteta made 4 subs at once. So, like, in fairness, right? Like, if you make 4 subs at once, how can you even isolate any of those individual changes as making like the difference to something? It's unprecedented to make that amount of change. And the more I think about them now, the more like sometimes I feel like I'm quite radical, and I quite like the idea of managers doing really bold things. But now when you look back on it, you think, bloody hell, man! Like, changing 4 players at the same time in a game like that with a lot of time to go, you're asking a lot, man. You're asking for like a real recalibration, and you're asking, it's not like you're throwing the kitchen sink, you're asking them to do something tactically for a period of time. And like, it just seems, more and more I look at it just seems a bit bonkers, really. But so yeah, I think it's probably it's probably not fair to say that it's because Odegaard went off that we looked a lot worse. But I hate the argument, like a lot of people have said that in the past, and I think I would agree. In the past, there are times when particularly when Odegaard's playing well. When he's playing well, we look great. When he doesn't play well, we don't look like we can create anything. Like there have been those periods, so I think there's some validity.
Yeah, absolutely. Just another question from Charles, just about Champions League, and probably a good time for us to talk about our potential next round opponents. But yeah, like for anyone who watched it tonight, and like I said, I was watching the goal show, so I was keeping tabs on every goal as they went in, and seeing that league table change and people dropping in and out of the top 8 and all sorts of things. It was very, very interesting. But yeah, the ending to the Real Madrid game was absolutely crazy. I think you watched it as well, didn't you, Raj? And our group chat was going a bit mental. Yeah, for a goalkeeper to score in the 95th, 6th minute against Madrid, and then put your team. They were at that point before they scored. They were going out, and they, by virtue of scoring that one more goal, I think it's put them into the last spot for the knockout rounds, which is pretty cool.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. I'm one of these, like I feel like I'm in this big. I say big. That's just not the right word I'm looking for in this context. I'm in a minority of people who, a minority of Arsenal fans who really like Jose Mourinho. Like I really root for him. I genuinely do. I think he's an amazing character. I think for all his downsides, he is a phenomenally impactful manager, and I kind of miss having him in the Premier League. Like I do miss having a Premier League. And for a season ticket holder at Arsenal to say that about someone who's managed Tottenham and Chelsea and Man United, I get it that's a bit weird, but I do sort of root for him. And today it was nice. He's playing Real Madrid, his old club. He would have found a way to fire himself and the fans and the fans and the players up, and just away, man. It's crazy, like you say, like. It's not just that they won. I mean, they're beating Real Madrid, which in itself is, it's not a dead rubber for Real Madrid. Real Madrid are trying to win this game. And then, to do that, to go and get that extra goal in the way that they did. I mean, it's just brilliant. I was like really, really pleased for him. And I think that's really, really cool. And look, don't get me wrong. If somehow Benfica get through the playoffs and then somehow they end up playing us, I'm sure I'll be hating Jose Mourinho for 2 legs. But, yeah, no, I'm pleased with it. I mean, that's quality. I think, that just added to some pretty cool drama on the final day of the Champions League. Because otherwise, this current format's a bit weird, isn't it? Its current format, it's like, it's kind of long, drawn out. You kind of never know at what point to take it too seriously. But like the final day is really cool, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we could probably talk about the new format. Well, it's not really new anymore, but the format for a while, couldn't we? But yeah. And I mean, look, I think there's probably a few other noticeable results today that mean a few big boys have missed out on qualifying automatically. Sporting Lisbon have snuck in there. Man City have snuck in there. But yeah, you've, like you said, Madrid, Inter Milan, PSG, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, and a few others. But yeah, they're sort of the biggest names that will have to play another game. Which is, we all wanted, as Arsenal fans, we wanted City to have, a couple of extra games, and they won't now, which is what it is. But it would have been nice. But in terms of our next round potential opponents, so again, Charles has kindly put it in as a comment or question. So it's either Atalanta, Leverkusen, Dortmund, or Olympiacos, which on the face of it is pretty good, to be honest. It's really weird how this works, because even though we finish top, we face either the 15th, 16th, 17th, or 18th place team. So you don't just automatically face the kind of the last 4 that qualified. Right. I don't know why that is. There must be a reason. But yeah, so they're the 4 potential teams. I mean, look, we're not going to start previewing anything like that, but just any initial thoughts on those 4? Like I'm pretty comfortable with. I mean, I probably want to avoid Dortmund just because of the away leg will probably be tougher. Just very, very hostile ground, and a big Champions League night would be a potentially difficult away tie. Olympiacos we faced feels like loads in the last, I don't know how many, 10 years or so, right? And Atalanta we played this season. in the Champions League phase? Was it
last season?
Last season, right?
Pretty sure it was last season. I don't think we won either. I think it was 0-0 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was
Maybe.
0-0. Yeah, but I mean, look, long way to go before we know who we're going to be playing. But any kind of initial thoughts on those teams?
No, I mean, I haven't invested a lot of energy in understanding, like, kind of, who we might play and who other people might play. I'm finding it quite hard to get my head around, to be honest. But like, I don't know, man. Like, I really feel like I would rather play anyone in Europe other than an English team. Like, really, honestly, like, I'd rather play PSG. I'd rather play Real Madrid than play. I was about to say all the English teams. I mean, that might be a bit extreme, but to be honest, mate, like, I mean, okay, you look at the English teams that are there, and even the sort of the lesser ones out of that group. I mean, Tottenham. I don't know if I want to play Tottenham over two legs. I just can't deal with the drama of it, like, and I can't deal with the stress of the idea of what would happen if they would knock us out. I just wouldn't be. I don't know if I could just enjoy that, because it's like a no-win one. I mean, if you knock them out, then you expected to knock them out, and they didn't expect to progress. But if you lose, oh my God, can you imagine? And then with Newcastle, for example, like, they're just annoying, and they've kind of got a decent record against us, and they'll be so up for it. And and you know what, Anthony Gordon gave a really good interview, right? Like, I think today or yesterday, and I don't know if you saw it, but they asked him about the difference between the Premier League and the Champions League, and he was talking about the physicality of the Premier League and how just people play so much more openly in the Champions League, i.e. European teams. It's true, man. It is so true. And a strength of Arsenal's is that we can do it both ways. And at the moment, we're probably overall the best at being able to go between the two different styles, or whatever hybrid style. But the fact is that these physical games, like against these Premier League teams, tend to be tight, and so I'd rather avoid it. So that's all my take, man. I look at those potential opponents, and I kind of like, man, like, we should be beating any of those. And then I think that, did you mention that if we were to win that, it's already sort of mapped out as to who we might play?
Yeah, it's
round?
I'm looking at it now. It could be reading this wrong, but I believe that this is probably more confusing than I think. It depends, actually, because I think there's still a draw to be done, and we could end up on one side of the draw or the other. This is based on what I'm looking at the UEFA website. So yeah, maybe it's not worth getting into the potential permutations, because I could be completely wrong, and I think there's just so many things that could happen, because there's still so many teams left to potentially play. So yeah, should we talk about Leeds?
I think we should, man, because I think a big, not elephant in the room, but maybe it is that obviously we didn't record after the United game, and the discourse on social media from Arsenal fans and pundits and journos, I mean, it's all been about the defeat, the fact that it comes back off two draws, and that we've got to bounce back pretty quickly. And so I think we should talk about Leeds. It'd be really interesting to know, maybe when we get exactly into Leeds, I mean, it will lead us onto Leeds, but how do you feel right now after the events of the last few weeks? So if we just say it in a nutshell, we have not won 3 Premier League games in a row. We drew 2 and we lost 1. We drew 2 0-0s, and then we lost 3-2 at home to Man United. And our lead of what was 7 points is now 4 points. So by pure momentum, that lead is going downwards, even though that lead is still a lead. It's a lead that went downwards. So how do you feel, all in all?
I feel like we've been let off a little bit in the last few weeks, because City, everyone around us basically, but City, Villa, obviously didn't take advantage of our slip-ups on those weekends. Obviously not the case last weekend when we've lost and they've both won. So I feel like there's a little bit of we've maybe had a little bit of luck there. My main concern now, and it's an obvious one, right, is the attack. And I am worried that Arteta, it's not so much he's not going to find a way to fix it. I'm just worried that he's going to really stick to his guns, and it could go one of two ways where, and none of us know the answer to this, right? And we were talking about Odegaard before. You mentioned about the left hand side being a bit of a problem. Obviously, he's now limited, not limited, but now the options that he has available to him are, are the players that he's essentially brought in or he signed this summer, or he's had for the last few years. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not sure how he fixes this. Obviously, he needs to go and do that, and hence why he needs to earn his money. I'm a bit worried, like you mentioned about Gyokeres, right? And I know there's like the stats indicate that we win, and you've said this a couple of times. You said it on Sunday as well after the game when we were having a drink. We win more games with him in the squad, with him in the team than when he doesn't start, and that's fair enough. I saw another stat which was something along the lines of it was basically like the goals that we've scored when Gyokeres has been in the team, I think it's like 90%, let's say 90%, it's not exactly that, but 90% or so have been set pieces. Whereas when Marino was playing as our striker, basically we score a lot more open goals. Now, I don't know how much you can read into that. It's only like half a season's worth of stats, but I'm just a little bit worried that, the narrative around we have become very reliant on set pieces, and in certain games, and it looks like it's mainly the league games that are the problem because we've flown in the Champions League and we're doing well with the cups, obviously. The bread and butter of the Champions League, we have not found a way to address all of these problems, whether it's the Odegaard problem, whether it's Saka hasn't quite, well, he obviously hasn't hit the heights that we expect from him, whether it's because we've signed this new striker and big question marks over him, Martinelli, Trossard, are either of them really good enough, and my concern is that if, for example, this weekend's game feels very, very pivotal to me, because I think if he doesn't win again, if we don't win again on Saturday, and that lead then drops to 1 point, whatever, let's just say City or Villa or both of them claw back some points on us, then the question for me is the mentality of this side, because we've obviously seen in the last few seasons they've not really, yes, okay, there's other circumstances. Last season was a season full of injuries. Previous to that, we basically did everything we possibly could apart from beat Villa at home, and we lost the title by a point, I think it was, to City. But ultimately, like, you can see that this team appears to struggle when it comes to that crunch period, and I'm a bit worried that if we don't win on Saturday, sorry, the pressure really, I mean, it's ramped up already, but the pressure really, really starts to ramp up. So I'm kind of feeling a bit, basically, I'm feeling a bit nervy about Saturday, and I'm not sure. I don't know. Like, it really feels like it could go either way in terms of it could be very similar to the last couple of games that we've seen, where we've potentially dominated games, but we've not really created enough to say we deserve to win the game, or we've not really created enough chances to say, okay, we can afford to miss a couple, but we'll put this one away and put that one away and we win the game, right? Equally, it just feels like we also have the personnel and the players to absolutely explode and tear a team apart 3-4-5-0. And I just don't know what's going to turn up on Saturday. And that's my concern. I've got no concerns about the midfield in terms of Zubimendi and Rice. Obviously, got no concerns about the defense. Obviously, best defense in the league, and I think in Europe as well. It's just that, how does Arteta fix this like attacking problem? Like, he tried Jesus on Sunday, didn't really have the impact. And that was a big game, right? That was Man United at home, and he changed it around. He went for Jesus, probably off the back of him scoring 2 goals at the San Siro. Didn't really work. Jesus didn't really do anything of note from what I can remember. There was very little impact. If he now switches it back to Gyokeres, are we going to get the same kind of lack of cohesion that we've seen with him in the team? So that's my worry, man. Like, yeah, and if we don't start firing soon, we're gonna, it's gonna become we're gonna start, either we're gonna get overtaken and then we're chasing, and the narrative, if that happens, like if it goes down to say a point this weekend, let's just say, God forbid, we lose, and let's say City win and it goes down to a point. I mean, I don't know, like, how do you? I just obviously Arteta seems very cool, composed, calm after that result, right? And we've listened to his press conferences, and he sounds like it's almost like I've got this, don't worry, type of thing. Like everyone, let's just chill, relax. We're still in a good position. I know what I'm doing, type of thing. But ultimately, he has never got us over the line, right? And that's not a criticism. That's just a fact. Like, I'm not saying it to kind of badmouth him at all. And like I think we if we don't win on Saturday, my worry is about kind of mentality of the squad. My worry is about how does he navigate it, because it's I don't know, man. It just feels like then you're 4 Premier League games without a win. Like I don't know, all of these potential things could happen. Like I say, on the flip side of that, we could go to Leeds, put in a really good performance, and you've got players that can go and score goals, which is obviously what I'm hoping to see. I just don't necessarily have that confidence that that's what's going to happen at the moment. And Leeds are decent at home. So I know you said you want to just get my feelings on how I'm feeling in general, but yeah, I guess it just naturally leads into Saturday's game. But yeah, how are you feeling about it all?
Yeah, probably don't have like one clear thought, and I think that I think you've probably articulated exactly what many Arsenal fans are feeling, which is just lots of things and lots of like anxieties and stuff. I think the thing that I feel a bit sad about is that because of the scars of like the last few seasons, it's like we think that any team that we're competing against is like this shark, right? And if the shark catches up with us, then we're gone. Like we're not even looking at this in a, well, actually it's a long season, and yeah, we may kind of really dip, and then we might go under City or Villa, but then we could come back. We're not even thinking like that. We're not even entertaining the thought that there could be some fluctuation between the positions. I think we're basically saying, well, if we're caught, it's done. And I think, unfortunately, what I'm worried about is that that's how they think about it in the dressing room as well, because they don't have the experience of winning a title. So I think that one of the hardest things Arteta is going to have to do is prepare for the possibility that could happen. It's one of the hardest things that he's going to have to do is to think about how, if this does happen, let's say even if he gets the balance right, or if he doesn't, if it takes a bit longer, like how can he get everyone to keep going? If that lead gets cut completely, and if we get a few points under City, like how can he keep us going? That's going to be a big challenge. But I think other than that, my general concern is exactly the same as yours. Like, what if he doesn't get this right? I think you could tell by his pre-match press conference, which has had glowing reviews from Arsenal fans and journalists, as to kind of one of Arteta's best ever press conferences, where in a nutshell he looked, as he said, very calm, very collected, and very clear in essentially just sort of saying, we had a great reflection as a squad. We took a breath, and then we really thought about how we want to live the next 4 months and basically play football with freedom that we deserve to play with, like play with the smile on our face that we deserve to play with. And he said it obviously in a much more eloquent way than I just did. But I get the impression that his point there was essentially like, guys, if we keep thinking about the fact that, we're going to need to keep this up for till the end of the season, it would be scary. It's just going to be scary because there's a lot of games left. But if you approach this more in every game we play, we just go into that game and just try and enjoy ourselves and play as well as we think, we can play, and have no regrets, and just play that game, and then just go and play the next game, and don't think about, oh my God, what if so-and-so hunts us down? What if this happens? What if that happens? Like, don't think about anything. Just you deserve to enjoy yourself. Go enjoy yourself. Now, look, I think what enjoying yourself really means is, play with clarity and play with and express yourself, as opposed to, just have a laugh, right? You know what I mean? So, let's see if that transmits. I was thinking about what's the film, the film where there's that guy, the guy becomes the England manager, and it was like a big joke.
Mike Bassett.
Mike Bassett, that's it.
Yeah. I've not seen that movie. I just know the name.
Because there's a famous scene in it where I think it's like half time, and he gives them like the team a massive rollicking, and it seems really inspirational. And then there's this like, cut to the final score, like England lose 5-0, and like whatever, something like this. And in the same way, if we lose to Leeds,
Yeah.
that big like speech is going to be like, well, what the fuck was that about? Like, well, that was pointless, wasn't it? But yeah, like to talk about more specific things, like we need, like the players need to figure out a way to fire. And I think we're really used to, as Arsenal fans, like thinking that there needs to be like lots and lots of collective responsibility in terms of how we put the ball in the net. And I don't know, man. Like, I think if we go through history, it's very, very rare that teams don't have at least one or two players who take that burden, like, and are just better than like the other players in their team at putting the ball in the net or creating chances or creating goals. And so someone or two players, like, they've got to step it up, and that might mean we have not unreasonable, but uneven expectations on different players. Like, for example, like if Trossard scored once every 3 games, if he had a goal or assist once every 3 games, I'd be like, damn, well done, Trossard. Like, you have done your bit, right? But if Saka was to have a goal or assist every 3 games, I'd probably say, oh, Bukayo, we need more. If we're going to win the league, if we're going to win the Champions League, you need to do more. And that's me having an unequal expectation on 2 players who are playing, roughly the same position, if you like, just on different sides. But that's basically how it is. I don't think we can, be really nice about this. We basically have to say, like, there's a couple of you who are going to have to take the burden. So who are our best players? Bukayo Saka is, in my view, easily our best attacking player. And like, we need to figure out a way of getting it out of him. Gyokeres probably isn't going to give us like, a huge, even if he has an upturn, we're probably not going to get loads out of him. So Odegaard's got to figure out a way of doing more. Maybe Eze's got to find a way of doing more. I don't know exactly, but I think one thing's for sure for me. I figure if we don't figure out a way of getting Saka to get to basically the level he was towards the end of last season, that Champions League kind of knockout run, I would worry a bit for us, man. Like, fine, set pieces will help. Oh, they will certainly help, but to win the big prizes, I think someone like a Saka needs to really, really do it. And that's to extent, it's a collective responsibility to try and get him to be able to do that. But that it is a little bit of a him thing. And if I just maybe finish on one point, and this might sound a little bit ranty and tangential, whatever, at some point, like, players do have to take responsibility. Like, I'm hearing a lot about systems, and I get it. Like, I get that, like, systems obviously can platform players differently and give players kind of, better opportunities, better freedom, etc. But I think at the elite level, at a certain point when you're on the pitch, you kind of need to figure out a way of just getting through. And I think there's lots of times, if you can look at the last few games, for example, Premier League games, where some of our like top attacking players have got in situations where you think, you could have done better, like you could have done more there. And that's not a system thing. That's you in that moment should have shot earlier. You should have shot better. You should have passed better, whatever it is. Like, it's not a system thing. It's a you thing. So yeah, the system can platform people better, but I do think at some point, like, players need to find the solutions during games as well.
Absolutely. Just on that, just I guess final thing. I know you said that you think Gyokeres will start on Saturday, and I probably agree. To be honest, I probably agree. I'm the fact that Havertz is. I mean, I say he's back now. He's just played 45 minutes after a year out, however long it's been. So I guess he's probably still got a few more games to go at least before he's kind of match ready. But I just wonder if the kind of if it continues to sort of be, as I said before, quite just ineffective with Gyokeres up top, i.e. we're just not really scoring goals. I wonder if Havertz might be the guy for the rest of the season. I mean, Marino's there as well. And I think after that United game, obviously, within the that first 24 hours, 48 hours after that game, you're basically pissed off at everyone and everything. And I was really key. I was really almost just, let's play Marino. Just play Marino until the end of the season because, yes, he's not. He has limitations, but at the same time, he's a very good finisher, and we know all the qualities that he brings. And we would just seem to be playing better with him in the team. So just go with what works as opposed to stop banging your head against a wall trying something that isn't working. But yeah, I do wonder now with Havertz back, and like I said before, he looks sharp already. Bodes really well, and that could be massive. That could be. I'm not saying it will be the answer, and that's why we win the league, but it could be a big part of maybe why we are able to start unlocking defenses a little bit more in the Premier League.
Again, I think we should also be a little bit careful because I think people like you and I, and I think there are other fans like us. I think we remember good things a lot more than we remember bad things, and I think there are some people who remember bad things more, right? And I think the fact that Marino just kind of was this savior in many ways and just overperformed massively in the striker role, and we have a lot of great memories to do with him playing up front, like for example, like Champions League run. I think it makes it easy to forget that actually, if you think about it, he was striker for what I don't know, like basically 3 to 4 months last season. And actually, in the Champions League, although we did really well in that period, we didn't do very well in the league games. And there were some league games where, like, he was able to get us a result where we were away at Leicester, for example. And I think, a couple of other games where he scored like important goals. But we as a team weren't doing enough to win games in the Premier League, during that period. And I think the point I'm going with that is we probably know the ceiling of what we can do with Marino. And you're right that maybe the Gyokeres situation has got to a point where like it really doesn't look like it's turning a corner anytime soon, and we just need the points and momentum. So you shift back to kind of Marino land, and you do what you can. You sort of hope that you can get the results. But I wonder if in Arteta's head he's thinking, I can't give up on the Gyokeres thing, because if I give up on the Gyokeres thing, like I know my ceiling of my other options. But the one thing there is the Havertz thing. So if Havertz is fully fit, I agree. I think we have to go back to a system with Havertz up front. I think he's probably the best striker at the club, Kai Havertz, to be honest. I think, I wouldn't have said that at the start of the season with Gyokeres' reputation, but from what I've seen, I think even if Gyokeres starts firing a bit, I think pound for pound, Havertz works in our system really well, and he's a very, very good player. So yeah, but I have a feeling, Mize, like if I was to bet what Arteta's thinking in his head, I think he's super protective over Havertz's fitness to the point where I think he's thinking in his head, can I avoid having a reliance on Kai until March? Can I avoid having a reliance on him until basically the Champions League knockout starts and all of that congestion happens and whatever? So if that means essentially literally just kind of going, okay, every game, I'm going to bring Kai on for a bit. Every now and again, I might start Kai for like 45, 60 minutes, but I'm not going to build plans in February around like Kai Havertz being the focal point of the team. And maybe that means he switches to the Marino thing because he thinks, okay, Gyokeres really, can't do this. Maybe. But I have a strong feeling like that. I think that you have the feeling too, that when he believes Kai's ready, I think we go back to the Kai formation, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I do. I agree. Well, fingers crossed he can stay fit and have an impact either soon or at least at some point in the season. Look, Leeds on Saturday, we've kind of spoken about it a bit, but we haven't really spoken about them. Elland Road, always a tough ground to go to. They've actually got, I think, a decent home record this season. Won 5 out of 11 games, drawn 4, only lost a couple of games. That was to Tottenham and to Aston Villa. So, okay, fine. Spurs are Spurs and a bit of a random team, but they've lost to two, let's say, biggish teams, and obviously Villa are flying this season. They picked up a draw against Liverpool at home. They beat Chelsea, drew to Man United, beat Palace really well. and their form recently has been pretty good as well. So as I was saying before, I'm not concerned in the sense that I'm not going into this game fearful, but at the same time, I feel like it's, I think a lot of people are seeing Leeds as like, oh, newly promoted side and kind of towards the bottom of the table. I think they're 16th in the league, and thinking, okay, we're gonna win. I mean, we should win, of course, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be a straightforward win. They've obviously got really informed Calvert-Lewin at the moment, and I feel like I've been saying this every game, like the Bournemouth game recently, the Forest game, even the Liverpool game. To be honest, I've been saying the same thing before all of these matches, which is, can Arsenal please just from the first minute, can we just go at these teams? Like, can we we dominate the ball? Yes, we dominate territory or that territorial advantage that we have. We play within the opposition's half, but it's obviously very controlled. I just want to see everything that we've kind of spoken about in the last hour or so. I want to see some incisiveness. I want to see some intent. I want to see maybe even some risk taking. Not maybe. I want to see some risk taking, and I want to see us try and get the early goal. Again, we did this against United, but this was the thing that happened against United. We got that early goal, and then God knows what happened. It just all went to shit, right? And the performance went out the window for whatever reason. And I want to see us do what you kind of expect champions to do. You get the first goal, then you get the second, and then you just play. You play your game that we know we can play, and then hopefully a third goal comes. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's comfortable. I'm not saying it necessarily needs to be comfortable from the 20th minute, but I want us to just be dominant and create chances and take advantage of that dominance. At the moment, it feels like we're being dominant in games and just very, very toothless. So I want to see that. Like, this is what when I said earlier, I want Arteta to, whatever tweaks he needs to make, whether it's personnel, whether it's tactics, doesn't really matter to me. That's what I want to see. And I think it's not a bad game to have post Man United. Like, ultimately they are struggling. Yes, they're in decent-ish form, but they're struggling this season. And it is a tough away ground, like historically, fair enough. But at the same time, like, we're not going from one really high intensity game, like a Super Sunday United at home type game, losing that, all the attention being on why we lost and we're not scoring goals and we don't have any star players and all the narrative that's come out recently, we only score from set pieces, to then going into like another big, it's not even on TV, right? So like, I feel like it's positioned quite well for us to just go there, do the job and win. That's what I'm hoping for. Of course, it probably isn't going to work like that. But at the same time, I'm still feeling a little bit nervy, maybe just because we've not been playing that great in the Premier League recently. But yeah, man, how are you feeling about it? Like, anything about Leeds that you've seen this season, or anything that you kind of note that we might see on Saturday?
Yeah, sometimes it's like, sometimes you're lucky to play teams at a good time. I remember, when we went away to Everton fairly recently, I felt that we were lucky to go there at a good time because of some of the players that they had out and because of some of their form. It's kind of the opposite with Leeds. We're playing Leeds at a really bad time. We're playing Leeds at a time where they have really, really got themselves in the box seat to stay up. And not only have they got themselves in the box seat to stay up, they're playing well. They also are, conversely, they still have a lot to play for, because weirdly, the two teams under them have also hit form really randomly. Like Leeds, Forest, and West Ham have better form in the last 3 games than Arsenal have.
Yeah,
like so Leeds probably, they feel like we're in the box seat, we're playing well, but we can't like afford to drop points very often at the moment, because these other 2 clowns below us are actually, they've got a chance to. So look, the point is, it's a pretty bad time to play them. It's also bad in a way because one of the ways, if you kind of looked at Arsenal's dropped points this season, or even just games where we've been troubled, a lot of it has been when opposing teams have tried to be very physical and very high energy against us. like Leeds will do that anyway. Like Leeds are quite good at that, and Leeds have effectively kind of, that in many ways has been the key to their success recently. They just play really high octane stuff. Daniel Farke changed the system when he was on the verge of getting sacked, and they just play really high octane football. They get it forward really fast, and they kind of just are a bit relentless. They remind me a little bit that they're basically like Klopp's Liverpool with worse players. That's kind of what it feels like when I watch them at the moment. So I think we are going to have a tough game. But man, like, it's in some ways, right? Maybe we do need it. Like we need to kind of go into another battle, and we need to come out on top of a battle to get that kind of swagger back. I agree with everything that you said, though, man. Like I don't think we can go into this game with this really like cautious approach of let's keep it really tight, let's quieten the crowd down, let's kind of just not make mistakes, let's kind of almost bank on an error or bank on a set piece. Let's not do that. Let's just not do that. Like I'm completely with you, because I think that's a recipe for disaster, and I just don't think we need to. Like, I'd almost rather we went into this game and were willing for this. I know this is not Arteta style, but we probably need to. We need to be willing to concede. Obviously, we shouldn't try and concede, but we should be willing to if it means that we get to like be a bit more expressive. Just because I think the guys need to. I think they need to, because we're not a team. Basically, we're not a team right now who, if you give us 3 chances, we'll score those 3 goals. We're probably going to need like a fair amount of chances. So like we have to create them. So yeah, I'm pretty nervous, man. Like, and but the thing is, let's say this is really bad. I can't see us losing at the same time. And maybe that's because the thought of dropping points 4 games in a row, particularly losing, 2 games in a row as well. I don't know if that's just too much for me to comprehend. Like I'd really start thinking, how has it got to this point? But what? Well, who else? But the other guys have got like pretty challenging games as well, haven't they?
You know what? I can't remember. I was looking earlier who they've got, but I can't actually remember.
I think have City got Spurs?
Yes, yeah. So City have got Spurs away, and Villa have got Brentford at home, both on the Sunday. So after us, obviously.
So Brentford are a cheeky team.
They're
probably a bit upset. They lost to Forest, didn't they, last game? But they're still a bit cheeky. Villa have got a lot of injuries. Although Villa had a great result against Newcastle the other day. And obviously you're going to bank on City beating Tottenham at home. Tottenham are terrible at home, but
no. Well, is there. I mean, look, I think City will win, but speaking to a few people, a few Spurs fans
of their record,
they always bring up, there's a bogey team and all of that, and I mean, I'm not expecting it. I'm not expecting a favour from Tottenham, no. But
do you think their fans are gonna be?
Yeah, man, they're doing it already. They're doing it already. Have you not seen on Twitter?
I've seen some stuff on social media. I'm like, are you match going fans? I don't know if you are, but like, oh gosh,
I'm sure there's a fair portion, even like they're proper fans, that probably won't be too like they probably think that their league campaign is pretty much as long as they stay up, right? As long as they don't get pulled into a relegation battle, unless some might say they already are in a relegation battle, but yeah, as long as they don't get pulled into like, oh, we need to win this game to stay up type of scenario. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they're pretty happy to just lose on Sunday, but just finish mid-table-ish and have a nothing Premier League season. Wouldn't be surprised. All right, man. Yeah, I mean, look, this Leeds game, it feels like, for everything that we've spoken about, like tactics and selection and how does he fix these various conundrums that he's got, like for me, it just feels like a mentality. Like ultimately, we're a much better team than Leeds, right? Like just putting it simplistically, we're a much better team than Leeds, and it feels like I dread to think what happens if we don't win. As I said before, the kind of the mentality side of it, I just really wonder if the players' heads just drop as a result, especially if City then go and win on Sunday. And so I think they just need to go in with the belief, obviously the belief that they're going to win, but just like they need to go in as champ, like they need to go in thinking, we're good enough to win this league. Let's just get the job done. Because then you look ahead to the next week after that, you've then got the Chelsea semi-final, which could be really, really positive for the club if we get through that, if we beat Chelsea and get to Wembley, and then it's a home game. I think it's Sunderland the week after, isn't it? So yeah. What's your prediction anyway for the Leeds game?
I am going to go Arsenal to win 3-2.
Oh, okay. Goals. Reverse of the last two. Well, reverse of Sunday and then same scoreline as tonight. Okay. I'm going to go Arsenal to win 2-1. It's just, same as you, but a few less goals.
What's the nature of the game in your prediction?
I think it'll be what I was saying before, where I do actually think, I think now after the results that we've had, we can't really afford to be passive. And I think there needs to be, I think Arteta's got to light a rocket up their ass from the first minute. They need to come out with that intent that I was talking about, intent to score goals. And that might mean it's a bit more of an open game, like you were saying. We might just have to accept that we might concede some goals. I don't think that will happen, because I think that we have such a strong defense and everyone's back now. Everyone's back. So there's not really any reason for us to be, or for me to be worried about the defense. But I think it will be, I expect Arsenal to dominate. They're going to play, I think they play three at the back. And I think they're going to try and keep it tight, but equally they're at home. So their home fans are going to expect something, right? They can't just sit in like teams do when they come to the Emirates. They're going to have to show some level of ambition to try and score. So I think that might play into our hands a bit. It might mean that we get a few more chances than what we've seen recently. And yeah, man, I think domination from us, I think that's definitely on the cards. And it's just that question mark. Like I said, it's just that question mark of, can we create and can we convert? It needs to start. It just needs to start this weekend. It needs to start ASAP, because as I said before, it's going to be a big problem if it doesn't. How about you?
Yeah, I can see in my mind it's playing out like the Bournemouth game. I can actually see Leeds scoring first, and then us, and then that not quite working in Leeds' favour, where they kind of go, I'm not really sure if we're supposed to attack now or defend now, and then kind of end up in a halfway house. And then I think that we take advantage of the indecision, and some of our quality comes through, and we go to 3-1, and then I can see them kind of pulling it back to 3-2, and it being this kind of really frenetic last 10 minutes. I can see that. And maybe I'm just merging lots of games together in my head. I'm merging the Bournemouth game, and then I'm merging when Leeds beat or draw with Liverpool at Elland Road, where it was kind of a kind of manic end, and and I think I'm merging those two games together and creating this one. But that's what I see in my head. I don't see it as Arsenal going to win. Arsenal going to be winning 3-0, and then there's a consolation goal or two towards the end. I think it will be tough. I think it will be a bit up and down. But I don't know. Would you rather, not to long this out for no reason, but would you rather a clean sheet and a 1-0 type thing? Would you rather that, or would you rather a 4-2 us winning?
I think the latter. Because I mean, I think if we're going and winning if we're scoring 4 goals, it means that we're almost the problems that we've had. I'd like to think that means that we've found a way. It's not 4 set piece goals, basically. We found a way to actually open up a defense, and especially a team that we know that we're better than, and they would obviously be happy with the draw, for example. So if we can demonstrate that and score 4 goals, I'd be much happier than a 1-0 win. But obviously, I take either. I don't really care.
Yeah, my only counterpoint to that, to be honest, is that if we're going to win titles, it probably is going to be on our defense, because our defense is our X factor. And so my only worry would be that I think recently, I say recently, obviously we had 2-0 but like you concede 3 goals at home to United. And if you kind of have another game where you're conceding some goals, today, I know it's very different. It's Kairat, and we had a completely different team. We conceded a couple of goals today. I wouldn't want us to lose our X factor, which is our defense. And that's the only thing. Like, you know, I kind of, I love the fact that we were keeping clean sheets and felt in control defensively. So I'd like to see that come back. But I take your point. I do take your point. At the end of the day, if we scored 4 goals, then it means that the attack has probably worked that day. So yeah, I think for me, I would love it. I would love it if Saka scores 1 or 2. I would love it like that. You know, I almost want to draft him back into my dream team just to will it.
Mate, do it.
Yeah.
Mate, when you saw that stat, the graphic that Sky Sports put up, you know, it's almost a case of any of those players, like, please go and score a goal in the Premier League. But I know what you mean. Yeah, it would be nice if Saka can, to be honest, mate, even if he got a couple of assists. But yeah, goals would be lovely. But even for him to just sort of start, you know, not stat padding, but yeah, improving those stats and almost just a bit of. I feel like with Saka, it's an interesting one. Like, we could talk about it for ages. Very different to Odegaard for me, because I feel like he's a player that, you know, he's always willing to take on the ball and try things. And, you know, we get so many corners on that side because of the hard work and good work that he does. Often, like, his crosses are blocks, but he's always trying to take on a defender. I feel like, yeah, he's probably maybe not been rewarded as much as he's just not been rewarded as much as previous seasons for. He's still doing a lot of good things, basically. So yeah, I get where you're coming from with Saka. Yeah. All right, mate. Good chat.
Good chat, man.
Cool. Well, I know. Is it? Oh gosh. Right. All right. We better end it then. No, thanks everyone for tuning in. Loads of questions and comments. Appreciate it. Didn't get around to talking about all of them because it's too late to do that. But thanks anyway for sending them in. And thanks, Raj.
Cool. Thanks, Mice. Yeah. Good
cool.
Chat.
All right. Thanks, everyone.